They're not good enough to start. They're not even good enough to play. But they do talk a good game. So come join Lou and Jose from the sidelines where all the best sports discussions happen anyway. Welcome in to the Benchwarmerz podcast.
Welcome into the program, everybody. I am Lou Ruggieri. That is Jose Ortiz. And this is the Benchwarmerz podcast. Wherever, whenever, and however you happen to be listening, we appreciate you taking some time to spend it with us. We are going to try to make it worth your while. And hopefully you're following us along on either the iHeartRadio podcasting lineup, which we are a proud member of, the newly formed Amazon Podcasts. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, the Benchwarmerz Podcast, at the BW Pod on Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. I mean, if you're listening to us, you know where to find us, but, tell a friend, sign a review, give us some 5-star ratings. We have quite the show coming up for you, and we're very excited about that. Hour 2, we're talking more NBA. We went over our top 5 teams and players last week. We're going to do 6 through 10. Top 10. We'll round out the top 10 players and teams this week with Jose and myself. We have to look ahead to week 14 already, and NFL season's almost over. We're going to review some picks from week 13, make some picks for week 14. Coming up a little bit, we have a bunch of NFL news to get to. We're bringing back Make No Mistake or Give Me a Break, our true-false segment. That's always a good time. But first, Jose, we have to get to our top 5 news stories in the NFL, according to us. And, the NFL, I don't know, NFL could stand for a lot of things. I know a lot of people say it stands for not for long. Sometimes I think it stands for no freaking logic. Because it's some of the scores this week. Okay, so I'm gonna throw something out to you. We didn't talk about this off the air, but there were two scores from 2 games that I expected to be those scores, but just for the opposite game. And I'm wondering if you were thinking the same thing. That's not worded entirely well, but so I'll just tell you what it is. The Patriots Chargers game and the Broncos-Chiefs game. I expected those scores of those games to be reversed. I expected the Chiefs to blow out the Broncos 45-0, and I expected the Chargers and Patriots to trade blows back and forth, and 16-22 sounds like a score that they would have, but that is not what happened at all.
Yeah, I would have agreed that would have sounded. I certainly did not pick even if the Patriots would have won. If I would have picked them to win, I wouldn't have picked them to win by 45 points. That's just
pitching a shutout.
Yeah, very surprising.
That's actually not one of our top 5 news stories, but I thought it was just interesting. We'll get to the Chiefs and Patriots a little bit later, but let's get going. Top 5 news stories according to us from Week 13 in the NFL. Number 1, the Steelers unbeaten no more. 72 Dolphins break out the champagne. We can see Mercury Morris gloating yet again for yet another year. The Steelers lose somehow 23-17 to the Washington football team. They lost to a team without a name. And I don't know if this says more about the Reds. I feel like it says more about the Steelers than the Redskins, but I mean I rewatched the end of this game like 3 times because I still didn't believe it. I was like, no, there has to be another. That can't be the end of the game. How did this happen?
Well, I think this is not much more than it's just a surprising stumble. I don't think either of us expected the Steelers to go undefeated, right? So at some point they were going to have a game that they just didn't play well. This happened to be the game, and they didn't. They actually had a couple of other games throughout the season where they haven't played amazingly well, but have found the way to win. This time around, they just didn't get it done. I don't really want to extrapolate too much from this. It's just one loss. I know it's to the Washington football team, so it looks awful. But the Raiders beat the Chiefs and then almost lost to the Jets this past week. It's just the NFL's crazy like that. If there's anything that it would say to me about the Steelers is that they don't have that unstoppable offense where it's just like when you just know they're going to score at some point. And honestly, there were a lot of teams I thought had that type of offense, and kind of got proven wrong this week. So I just would kind of move on. Good big win for the Washington football team, tied for first place in the division. Very happy for them. Their defense played well. I don't really know. I don't know what happened other than the Steelers just got caught on a bad day.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Smith played well enough. I mean, he had 296 yards passing. He had a touchdown. He went 31 of 46. Not great, not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have some surprising people that show up on their stat sheet. Logan Thomas this week, 9 receptions, 98 yards. Cam Sims out of nowhere, 5 receptions, 92 yards. J.D. McKissick threw in 10 receptions for 70 yards. Check down monster. You know, and it was just interesting in that. And Chase Young, I mean, he looks like he's everything as advertised.
Yeah.
In going number 2 in the draft last year, and so it's.
Yeah. No, let's not forget a Montez Sweat with a big breakup at the end of that game. They've got a good team, and they're a team that I'm sure at the end of the year we're gonna pick one team that we expect to make a big leap in 2021, and they're kind of one of those teams that I'm looking at that if they can kind of get it right at the quarterback position. They've got players they've got a good receiver in Terry McLaurin. They've got a good running back in Antonio Gibson. They've got a great defensive line. They have the pieces in place. They just need a quarterback.
See, I feel like Alex Smith, with a full year under his belt, could be that quarterback. I mean, he brought the Chiefs to the playoffs. I mean, he brought the 49ers to the playoffs. He was, yeah. I think he's a lot better than any quarterback we've seen in Washington for a while now. Maybe since, I mean, Kirk Cousins, I guess, would be the closest comparison.
Yeah. I would completely agree with that. And if I'm the Washington football team, Alex Smith is my starter, most likely heading into next season. I'm still drafting a quarterback.
Agreed.
I'm still drafting a quarterback.
Yeah, he might get Alex Smith yet again.
Yeah, and Dwayne Haskins. Well, I think Alex Smith has 2 years left on his deal, so I wouldn't be the end of the world if he starts next year and then kind of bridges the gap for a starter in the year after that. But yeah, Alex Smith is the guy. I agree with you completely.
Yeah, I think he could be well on his way to being Alex Smith yet again after doing it with Colin Kaepernick and then Patrick Mahomes. The Redskins, or the Washington football team, might. I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't think that they're going to have a top quarterback in this draft. I don't think Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence are going to be.
Well, if you're in the first round, let's say they win the division this year, you get a first round pick. Let's say you're the 16th pick. Are you spending a first round pick on a quarterback, or are you going back all in on the team and trying to go with what you have?
I think it depends on what quarterback's available. I think there's a couple very good players out there that look like they're climbing up the charts, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think that it's not a bad situation to have if Alex Smith can stay healthy, because he is a great mentor. He's good enough to win, and Ron Rivera, he seems to kind of counter Ron Rivera's sort of, high stakes gambling attitude by being a little bit conservative. I think that's somehow that sort of fits in a weird way. But yeah, the Redskins tied for first. NFC East all of a sudden starting to look almost legitimate, and
like the NFC Beasts, we're gonna have to start calling them soon enough.
Yeah, not quite. But speaking of beastly performances, our second story and our top 5 news stories this week: the Cleveland Browns won a game. Number one, that's been years. They've clinched a winning record of this season. They beat the Titans with a 4-touchdown performance in the first half by Baker Mayfield. This game ended up being 41-35, but it wasn't even that close. There was a lot of garbage time scoring by the Titans, and they made a game of it at the end. But I mean, the Cleveland Browns were up 38-7 in the first half. I mean, this game was basically over at halftime.
I was just so impressed with Baker Mayfield over the last this game. He's been playing okay. 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, I believe, this season so far. They haven't asked him to do much, but when they did ask him to win this game for them, he came out and he was just balling. He was just throwing dimes, great passes. I think at one point he was 21 of 25. He just looked incredible. today, on Sunday, and it reminded me because a lot of people were very quick to want to move on from Baker Mayfield with the Browns, and they're going to have a decision to make on him this coming next season. I think you exercise his fifth-year option and let him prove it to you one more time, but there's no reason that Baker Mayfield can't be a quality starting quarterback in the NFL. Just because he can't put up Mahomes or Russell Wilson type numbers doesn't mean that he can't be a quality starting quarterback. I was very, very happy with what I saw to Baker Mayfield, a guy who I predicted for a while will be a star in the NFL, and I've had to eat crow because he hasn't been. But yeah. He's taken those steps. He's playing better and better every week. I really like what I'm seeing out of the Browns. I'm happy they're going to go to the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see them. It's nice to see some winning spirit in Cleveland, and I think this is the best team they've had since the 2007 Derek Anderson, Peyton Hillis.
Forgot about that team.
Yeah, Peyton Hillis, the only white running back who made the cover of Madden. That was a happy day. But Baker, I mean, I'm one of those people that think that the Browns should have moved on from Baker Mayfield. Now, I think, while he played very well in this game, it was only in the first half. Now, a good first half does not a Hall of Famer make.
Of course
one
not.
Game, outside of Joe Namath, one good game does not make you a Hall of Famer. And Baker Mayfield had one good game, and I think that his performance is predicated on the fact that they have probably, the best 1-2 punch in the backfield with Nick Chubb and a healthy Kareem Hunt in the league. So, I think that he was able to do what he did because of the quality of the team around him. Now, their offensive line's gotten much better, and I hate to say it, but it seems like since Odell Beckham went down, all of a sudden, Jarvis Landry, Donovan Peoples-Jones looks like a superstar. Even Austin Hooper's showing up. Our crosstown neighbor, David Njoku from Cedar Grove, New Jersey, is starting to come around again. And it just feels like Baker's a little more comfortable and not trying to force the ball so much. And I hate to say that because Beckham is such a great talent, but it almost maybe it's a product of the progression of just the season. But Kevin Stefanski, Coach of the Year. I mean, this is incredible.
Well, listen, you got to talk to Brian Flores about that. But yeah, Kevin Stefanski certainly should be in the discussion. I just want to counter the two of the things you said. For the most part, every quarterback is better when they have a better team around them. For the most part, there are some instances where you have a great quarterback without great players, but usually you need to have a great receiver. I mean, we could say the same thing about Steve Young or Peyton Manning or Joe Montana. You have great players around you. Of course, you can be better. The other thing is, if his only crime is not being a Hall of Fame level, what is there, like 4 Hall of Famers, 5 Hall of Famers in the NFL right now at the quarterback position? I think he can be a quality NFL starter, but you are completely correct. There's been a complete shift in the way this team is playing without Odell Beckham Jr. I don't know what that's about, but it obviously they've been playing better. And you are right. They're not putting too much pressure on him. But remember, he's only in year 3. And I think, listen, this is what they did with Ben Roethlisberger early in his career. This is what they did with Russell Wilson. I keep saying Westbrook. Russell Wilson early in his career. This is what they did with Tom Brady early in his career. You don't have to be throwing for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns to give your team a chance to win.
No, I agree with that, and but it is a different NFL. It's not the same as it was when even when Aaron Rodgers came in the league. I mean, nobody sits for years anymore. You start and you're expected to win now, and that rookie. I think you don't need to be a Hall of Fame level talent, but I think to command the salary that he's going to command if they decide to sign him, I don't think his performance warrants that. And if you look on the opposite side of the field, Ryan Tannehill is a perfect example. Ryan Tannehill had a great game, 389 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he has great games because he has Derrick Henry, and the teams are focused on Derrick Henry and play action. Ryan Tannehill shows up big time. I mean, it helped. Corey Davis helped this game too with 11 receptions for 182 yards. I mean, maybe throw a double team on him. I don't know, but I think that it's having a great running game makes it makes a quarterback better than he would be otherwise. And I think
Absolutely.
that's obvious. It's obvious to
Absolutely.
say, but I think, Ryan Tannehill, of all people in this game, is a perfect example of maybe what Baker Mayfield is going to be.
And there would be nothing wrong with having Ryan Tannehill, because the fact of the matter is, if you keep waiting for your Patrick Mahomes, you're going to end up with no one, because you don't. These quarterbacks are just he's just not going to be that good. Whoever you get is not going to be Patrick Mahomes, and I think that's the thing. You couldn't just move on from a guy because he's not this amazing player. Ryan Tannehill is a quality starting quarterback in the NFL. And he's worth now. What I hope and what I think will happen is that Baker Mayfield should not get paid more than Patrick Mahomes, right? It shouldn't be, well, you're the next guy up, we're going to give you $65 million a year. It shouldn't be that way. Baker Mayfield should get a contract probably in line with maybe something that Derek Carr got, or one of these other quarterbacks that are in the low 30 millions. I mean, I know it sounds crazy to say low 30 millions, but he deserves to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't know whether he deserves to get paid, but he deserves to be a starter in the NFL.
Well, and that's the bottom line. Is I think it is literally about the bottom line, and it's whether he is worth, judging his value on what money you're going to have to spend on him, and it's the return on that investment that I think is makes all the difference. And if he keeps doing what he just did, and the Browns make a considerable run, then I think maybe he's earned it. But I do think that you hit the nail on the head right off the bat, and that you exercise his 5th-year option, give him a prove-it year, one more year to kind of just be under in this system, because he obviously looks way more comfortable than he did with Freddie Kitchens. Mm-hmm. So I think that a little stability goes a long way, especially with a guy like Baker. So
I mean, I think he's playing with the house's money. He doesn't even have to win a playoff game. Like, just by getting to the playoffs, this has been a franchise that's been starved for anything remotely resembling success. They were winning. They were doing nothing before Baker Mayfield got here. The first year he was here, I think they won. I think they won 7 games. Last year they won 6 games, which was, it sounds terrible, but it was like the most games they had won in a decade. This is a franchise that just getting to the playoffs and having a postseason, I think, would be enough for him.
I think
for this year,
the expectations being 9-3 right now. I think that the expectations at the beginning of the year, I would have said yes, but now that it's clear that the Ravens are kind of falling off a little bit, the Steelers, all of a sudden it's like, they got a cut. It's like Ivan Drago got a cut against Rocky, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's not a machine. They're not perfect. They're not unbeatable. I think that the expectations, especially, and Browns fans are fiercely loyal, and they're, they've been a little delusional over the years. They think that they're better than they are. But I think this year, last year, how many people had them going to the Super Bowl last year, and they just fell flat in their face. So I think that, the expectation is slowly rising. So I'm not sure if just getting to the playoffs, especially in an expanded playoff year, is going to be quite enough. I think.
Well, they can't get blown out. Can't get blown out.
One victory, I think, is the benchmark. Right. I think if they get one victory, I don't think anybody in Cleveland is going to say anything outside of, all right, good job.
And I feel like if you lose a close game to say the Chiefs, right? Because they're going to be a lower seed, and there's only going to be one bye. So you're either getting the Chiefs or the Steelers. One of these lower seeds are getting the Chiefs or the Steelers. So if you lose a close game to one of those two teams, I don't think it's the end of the world. But yeah, if you lose to the Titans or something like that, yeah, it's different.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of slightly overpaid quarterbacks, that leads us to our number 3 story, who maybe isn't overpaid after all. Jared Goff and the Rams take control of the NFC West by beating the Cardinals 38-28 in something of a surprise. Jared Goff, 37-47, 351 yards, 1 touchdown. Kyler Murray I think it looks like he's hurt. I mean, he was 21 of 39, 173 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a very costly interception. I don't know, the Cardinals were a great fun story in the beginning. Now it seems like the well-roundedness of the Rams, if that's a word, is starting to come through. And Jalen Ramsey, by the way, Defensive Player of the Year, I think, because he's shut down in back-to-back weeks. He's shut down DK Metcalf, and DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins did have 8 receptions for 52 yards and a touchdown, but that, to me, I think that's basically...
He contained him.
But yeah, Jalen Ramsey doing excellent work, along with, obviously, Aaron Donald just being a monster.
So, yeah, I mean, the Rams are one of the teams I need to apologize to. This offseason, we were talking about certain teams, and I had the Rams finishing in last place in the NFC West, and clearly they're much better than I imagined, and I think it starts with their defense. Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, they're giving up only 20.3 points per game, second fewest yards per game allowed. And, say what you want about Jared Goff, I don't think he's worth the money they're paying him, but he's not playing terribly either. He's 17 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He's completing over 68% of his passes. The Rams deserve a little bit of respect in the NFC right now as being a team that has a chance to maybe do some damage, make some noise. As far as the Cardinals, I don't even know what to say. They're just kind of imploding right now. It feels like early this season they were unstoppable. Now they look really ordinary, and the only thing you can really point to is Kyler Murray not running the ball. Again, he only had 15 yards on the ground, I believe. Yeah. I think I saw that this past week. And so I happened to look. In the games in which Kyler Murray has 60 yards rushing this year, at least 60 yards rushing, they're 5-2, the Cardinals.
Yeah.
In games in which he has under 60 yards rushing, they're 1-4. And the one game they won was against the Jets.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's all seems to be predicated around him. And is it just me, or does every quarterback that has this amazing running ability hit this same wall? It just feels like every quarterback who can run the ball hits a wall at some point.
Well, it does seem like that some of those guys are, maybe they don't try to develop their passing skills because they rely on the running. And we heard about Lamar Jackson, improving and being this elite passer in the offseason, but obviously that has not come to fruition this year. And Kyler Murray, to be fair, he's only started 1 year. This is his second full year in the league. Yeah. And, but the thing is like you said, if he's rushing for 15 yards and then he's only throwing for 173 yards, you're not going to win that game most of the time if that's your starting quarterback stats. And, it is a division game. So, division games, we saw the 49ers beat the Rams, with a decimated team. It just, these teams know each other very well. And, the Rams are a well-rounded team from top to bottom. They have, I think that their receiving core, I feel like I have to apologize to them because their receiving core is much better than I gave them credit for. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, even Everett, and
Josh Reynolds as well.
Josh Reynolds, yeah. They're a very, very good team from top to bottom. They outside of Aaron Donald, there's no one on the team that maybe Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. You don't say, wow, they're amazing. But they have a lot of very, B plus players, and they're just a B plus coach. I know never thought he was an A plus a year ago, but everything is pretty good, and they're 8-4, which is also pretty good.
Yeah, no, and they have a path straight to the straight to the division title if they can just keep winning. So I'm very happy with them.
Speaking of that division title, the number 4 story in our top 5 news stories of Week 13 in the NFL is the I don't know what to even call it, the shock of the day. The Seahawks losing to Colt McCoy and
I forgot
the Giants in just a shocking loss. I don't even know what to say about that. Russell Wilson looked awful. That vaunted Seahawks offense that, let Russ cook. Well, he burned the soup because they scored 12 points in just, an embarrassing showing. Russell Wilson, 27 of 43, 263 yards, a touchdown, interception. He looked lost. He was getting pressured by that defensive line of the Giants. And he was, normally we see him make plays and scramble, but he was trying to make plays and just, either short hopping balls or just making errant passes or just, bad decisions, on very, very uncharacteristically bad decisions for Russell Wilson. This game just, I don't even know, an anomaly.
Yeah, I watched basically every snap of that game like live as it was happening because obviously I'm in the New Jersey area, so you get the Giants. And
Yeah.
as I was watching it, I couldn't understand. I was like, okay, when are they going to start scoring? Like,
Yeah.
like what's going on here? And the one thing that I noticed is that the Giants were consistently getting pressure on him, on Russell Wilson. Consistently, they had 5 sacks, but they they were harassing him all game long. I don't know, and they ran the ball somewhat well, but it seems like I don't know. They just
Wayne
to me
Gallman.
there are a few teams in the NFL that are kind of inconsistent, and the Seahawks are one of the teams. Titans are another team where it's just one week they look amazing, and then the next week they lose to the Giants, and I don't really know what to say other than the Seahawks are 8-4 and just move on and try and win the next game. You're playing the Jets next week, but all I can do is talk about the Giants right now.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for them. They've been hanging in there. They lose their starting quarterback, bring in Colt McCoy, who I didn't even know he was still in the NFL. He plays decently, and they managed to get a win and are tied for first place. And I don't care who you are. There's no way on earth that you at the beginning of this season that you said the Giants and the Redskins heading into Week 14 would be tied for first place. If you say that, you're lying. There's no way you thought
No
that.
one said that. Even they didn't say that. But yeah, Wayne Gallman. I mean, it seems like the Giants, just played old school football.
Yeah.
Joe Judge, special teams guy from New England. He just took some basics. He ran the ball down the Seahawks' throat with Wayne Gallman and Alfred Morris. Coming out of witness protection.
Another one who knew who was in the NFL. Who knew who was still in the NFL?
Two touchdowns, by the way, for Alfred Morris. Good job by him. And, if you look at the stat line, I mean, the Seahawks had more total plays, 70-55, but they did have the time of possession is basically even. They both had an interception. They punted less than the Giants. They had less penalty. They had the same amount of penalties. The only differences are, 5 sacks allowed by the Seahawks versus 2 for the Giants. And, they were 0 for 2 on fourth down conversions. The Giants didn't have any fourth down conversions or attempts. But it's just, I don't know if it's, the old West Coast coming east or if it's, if this is just one of those bad matchups for the Seahawks. I don't know. But I think that this is a bad time to start losing games you should be winning.
And Russell Wilson's MVP momentum is 100% gone now. This is Mahomes' award to win this year. It's a shame. Aaron Rodgers, but I think it's Mahomes. But it could be Aaron Rodgers maybe. But either way, they have 4 games left to kind of get their act together, but they don't look good right now.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the unsaid headline to that game is that the Giants knocked Russell Wilson out of the MVP race.
Yeah,
basically with that one game.
Yeah, he still has 4 games to try and get back into it, but the way Mahomes has been playing the last few weeks, I don't know.
Yeah, and so all right, our top 5 news stories of the week. Number 5, actually a former MVP candidate. No longer. Carson Wentz benched for my dude Jalen Hurts. The Eagles still lost 30-16 to the Packers, which I don't think anybody is surprised by. It seemed Jalen Hurts came in the game. He had some pizzazz to him. He had a little sizzle. He provided a spark. I mean, they scored a touchdown. He for all intents and purposes, he played better than Carson Wentz. I mean, he did throw an interception, but it's to be expected. Five carries for 29 yards. I mean, he overall was, for getting thrown in basically a losing game, he made it at least a little bit interesting. And the Packers, I mean, what can you say? Aaron Rodgers, 400 passing touchdowns, 50,000 passing yards, the fastest to 400 touchdowns in history. And he's a machine. And that this team, I don't understand teams that play the Packers, why you don't triple team Devontae Adams. I don't understand how anybody is surprised when he is getting the ball seemingly every single play. but it just seems the chemistry between Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams is second to none at this point, and it's scary how good this team can really be if Aaron Rodgers is playing and comfortable when he's playing.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't even pay attention to Aaron Rodgers' stat line because I knew they were going to win this game. The Packers are legit right now. I still think the Saints are the best team in the NFC, but the Packers are right there. Davante Adams is unstoppable. I don't think it would matter if you put two people on him. The way it kind of reminds me of Drew Brees to Michael Thomas connection, where it's just there's no way you can really defend it. The way they put the ball, the way he positions his body to catch the ball, if it's an on-target pass, there's really almost nothing you're going to be able to do. So as far as the Eagles, you may as well just stick with Jalen Hurts at this point for the rest of the season and see what you have. Send a message to Carson Wentz that you've got to earn this job next season because this is obviously a lost year. The Eagles are atrocious. I think their general manager needs to be fired. And I hate calling for people's jobs, but he obviously has not done a good job of stocking this team with talent.
Yeah, and Carson Wentz, all Carson Wentz has to do in retort to that is just say, well, there's a $60 million cap hit if you get rid of me next year.
We're not going to get rid of him. They're not going to get rid of him.
Well, what they should do, I think, is see if Frank Reich wants him back on the Colts and just say, we'll give you Carson Wentz and somebody else if you just take his contract off. You just take that off our books. And I'm not sure that that might be a win-win. I don't know with a fantastic offensive line. Maybe Carson Wentz gets his mojo back, but
that's actually not a bad idea. It's not a bad thought.
It just seems like I don't know. It just seems like he's lost his confidence. He's got the yips, almost like a pitcher, or a shooter. Like Nick. It almost reminds me of Nick Anderson on the Orlando Magic when he missed those couple free throws. He was never the same player. Way back, I'm going back, 30 years. When
going to another sport too.
Yeah, but it just reminds me of just it hasn't been one moment for Carson Wentz like it was for him, but for Nick Anderson. But it just feels like he's lost his confidence, and it shows. He holds on to the ball too long. He looks gun shy, and not for nothing, but I also think that Alshon Jeffrey should not be playing wide receiver in the NFL anymore. He's a shell of his former self. He has no separation. He is no. I don't see anything. He's just a warm body out there, and he's a detriment to their team at this point. Obviously the Eagles are not doing. They're getting healthier, but they still need some help in the wide receiver category. But Jalen Hurts looks good. I was a big supporter of him coming into the draft this year, and I think that. I found myself, as much as I don't like the Eagles or their fans, I was rooting for Jalen Hurts to do well.
Well, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. He looked okay, but it's garbage time. That game was over very early. Sure. So we'll see what happens. That's why I think you just stick with Jalen Hurts at this point. We already are knowing what we're getting from Carson Wentz right now, and it's trash. He isn't playing well, so there's no point to keep going back to him. Just go to Jalen Hurts, lose some more games, and try and regroup in the offseason and see what went wrong. It could be as simple as needing to improve the offensive line. I don't know what it is. Maybe he does need to change the scenery. I wouldn't want to be trading for Carson Wentz right now, no matter who I was. So, I
agree. And so that'll do it for our top 5 news stories of the week. We had there's a few stats of the week that could be thrown in here. I think Aaron Rodgers being the fastest to 400 touchdowns. The Washington
until Mahomes passes him, of course.
Yeah, naturally. An interesting stat of the week. Not that it pertains to anything in this in the top 5 news stories, but speaking of Mahomes, he has, I think, the highest 1-month passing yard average in the history of the NFL. With I think it's 399.5 he has in the last month, and so it's the highest ever. The Washington football team, another stat of the week, they won their 3rd consecutive game, which is the first 3-game winning streak they've had in 2 years since 2018. So that's pretty interesting. Good for them. But yeah, we have a lot more to touch on. Speaking of the Chiefs and a few other teams. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, dive into some other NFL news, play Make No Mistake or Give Me a Break. And, we'll have that and more right after this on the Benchwarmerz podcast.
You can reduce your risk of COVID-19 by cleaning and disinfecting frequently touched items and surfaces every day. These items include remotes, tables, counters, light switches, doorknobs, handles, toilets, and sinks. Wear disposable gloves to clean and disinfect. If you can see that the item is dirty, wash first with soap and water or another general cleaner. Then use a household disinfectant to kill germs. Follow manufacturer's instructions for application and proper ventilation to safely use the product. For phones or other electronics, follow the manufacturer's instructions for cleaning and disinfecting. If no instructions, use alcohol-based wipes or sprays containing at least 70% alcohol. Dry surface thoroughly. For more tips, visit cdc.gov.
And now back to the Benchwarmers podcast with Lou and Jose.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. I am still Lou Ruggieri. That is still Jose Ortiz. And this is still the Benchwarmers podcast. Appreciate you taking some time to spend it with us. Touched on the top 5 news stories in the NFL in the beginning of this hour. You can follow us along, by the way, iHeartRadio podcasting, Amazon Podcast, Spotify, Apple, Google, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram at the Benchwarmers Podcast, at the BW Pod on Twitter, the Benchwarmers Podcast at yahoo.com, Benchwarmers with a Z for marketing purposes. So follow us along, rate us, review us. Hopefully you like it as much as we like doing it. So this back half of this hour, we have some more NFL news to get to. And Jose, we went a little long on the first bit, so I want to kind of do a little bit of a rapid fire because we have to get through some news topics, and then we have to play Make No Mistake or Give Me a Break, which is kind of our true false segment. So we'll just bang them out, and we'll see what we come up with. Starting out, the Vikings eke out the Jags in overtime. The feisty Jaguars stay afloat at 6-6. They're still technically in the playoff picture. Any hope for Vikings fans moving forward?
I mean, the Vikings are the number 7 seed. They're in the playoffs. If the playoffs started right now, the Vikings would be in. Yeah. So I have to quickly take a look at their schedule, but I think the Vikings have been playing very well, and I think they have a chance to make the playoffs. And if they can keep it going, I don't think any of the other teams behind them are really going to scare me right now.
Yeah, and I think this game just shows the quality of player in the NFL because, while there might be some front office tanking going on in Jacksonville, players aren't tanking. Players want to win, and they still have pride, and nobody wants to be, 0 in forever or 1 in a million. And, the Vikings played well. Kirk Cousins played well. Dalvin Cook played well, but the Jaguars hung around and they made it interesting because they, and I do have the only thing I'll say about this, I have to make an apology and to you because coming into this season, I was I think it's also a product of situation, but I was a big fan of Jerry Jeudy over Justin Jefferson, and you were a big Justin Jefferson fan, and you were right.
Thank you.
Unequivocally, you were far righter than I was. I'm hoping Jerry Jeudy will show up at some point, but Justin Jefferson is on. He's basically on pace with Randy Moss as far as rookie records go, and it's incredible.
Quickly, thank you. But Justin Jefferson was my number 1 guy, number 1 wide receiver the entire time. He had the size, he had the speed, and he had the location, like the landing spot. It's too perfect. So, yep.
All right. Next story: the Raiders last-second touchdown from Derek Carr to Henry Ruggs. Speaking of another good rookie wide receiver, they got Greg Williams fired because he called basically a zero blitz when all they needed to do was not let somebody like Henry Ruggs get over the top. And for some reason, they had a undrafted rookie cornerback covering probably one of the top 5 fastest players in the NFL. And this game was shocking. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a loss or a win disguised as a loss before, but I think for the Jets, this was it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. They had a chance to get the win. But who fires someone heading into Christmas when you're 0-12? Like, you may as well just wait till the end of the season. This, to me, seems like Adam Gase trying to save his job. But, yeah, Raiders, I guess the win's a win. it's not the way you would want to win. I really thought they were going to get an embarrassing loss there. For the Jets, I just don't know when that win's going to come. It looks like 0-16 is going to be a reality.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the Steelers lose, so I think that's the only perfect record left is the Jets.
Yeah.
And just as a quick little side note, I think I'd like to use this game as a time to anoint Darren Waller as the third best tight end in the league.
Third? Who's second?
I give it to George Kittle, even though he's injured.
Oh,
I think George Kittle, Travis Kelce.
Okay.
And then Darren Waller. But, obviously, without George Kittle playing, Darren Waller is making a case that he's, at worst,
the second. Destroyed me in fantasy football this week.
Yeah, he did, because I have him.
Yeah, I played you twice. Killed me in this week.
Yeah, Darren Waller, well, not so much a secret anymore, but that's he is unbelievable. 13 receptions, 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, wow, good for him.
Yeah.
Let's see. Chiefs rally from 16-12 deficit to get the win over the seemingly hapless Broncos. I don't know, again, if this is proof that maybe the Broncos are better than we thought, or the Chiefs maybe, I don't know, this seems to be a pattern where they're playing down to their competition, or they just they almost like to make it interesting to get up and play, but this game should not have been nearly as close as it was.
Yeah, it's surprising. You kind of expect them. It's like if you see a guy who is like the fastest person you've ever seen, but he's jogging, and you're like, well, why don't you just run really fast? Like, I'm just going to jog right now, and then they wait till the end to start running. I don't know what it is, why they kind of have these slow starts. This should have been like 30-0 at halftime. So surprised. And
once again, cover Travis Kelce. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know. And Drew Lock, by the way, Drew Lock is not the answer. John Elway should put on the pads and go down. He should have played last week instead of Hinton, but I think John Elway could replace Drew Lock right now and do better than 15 completions for 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So
they're drafting a quarterback next year.
Yeah, and they should, but they shouldn't let John Elway do it because he is not good at it.
Fair enough.
All right, we have to get on to our favorite game. Make no mistake or give me a break. So we have basically 3 apiece. We'll throw out a statement, and the answer is going to either be make no mistake, that's absolutely true, or give me a break, that's ridiculous. I'll give you my 3 first, and you can let me know what you think. Number 1, make no mistake or give me a break. Matt Nagy will not be the coach of the Chicago Bears next season.
Make no mistake. I thought you were going to say next week, but okay, the next season definitely.
I was going to say by the end of the season initially, and I thought maybe that was too soon because it's only a couple weeks away. But
this offseason, I'm not sure if you remember, we each picked one head coach that was on the hot seat, and I'm not sure if it was you or I who picked Matt Nagy, but his name came up. He's done this year.
Yeah, and remember when they were 5-0, and they have not won a game since. I agree. He will not be the coach. I think he'll be a good coach somewhere, but it's not going to be in Chicago.
Yeah.
Make no mistake, or give me a break. Both the Jets and Jags will win one game before the end of the year. One more game, I guess, in this Jaguars case.
I'm going to say give me a break. I just can't. I guess I could analyze their schedules and look for a spot, but
no one cares.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to say no. I don't think they're going to win another game this year, and they're going to be battling out for picking a top quarterback. And I guess that would automatically go to the Jets since they don't have any wins.
Yeah, I'm going to say give me a break also because I think one of them will win a game, but I don't think both of them will. All right, last one. Make no mistake or give me a break. One of these teams would make me very nervous if they made the playoffs. The Dolphins, the Giants, or the Patriots.
Give me a break. I'm not worried about any of those teams. They make the playoffs. Not worried about either of those teams.
See, I'm going to say make no mistake. The Dolphins, I feel like the Dolphins are a team that could make some noise. I feel like they could surprise somebody because I do think that it would be a case where whoever they're playing is going to be looking past them. A lot like the Titans were last year. People were looking past, the Patriots were looking past them. The Ravens were looking past them, and they just upset and played their game. I think the Dolphins could be a little troublesome.
Yeah, but the Dolphins and the Patriots or the Giants, they don't have the abominable snowman on their team, aka Derrick Henry. So
That's true.
and it's not even it's not even that they don't have Derrick Henry. They don't have anyone like even approaching that, because that's how underdogs win in the postseason, right? By controlling the game, controlling the clock, making it ugly, and winning that way. I don't see that happening. Maybe the Dolphins could do that, but I would not be worried at all if I had. In fact, I'd be happy to get the Dolphins in the first round.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. I've got 3 for you real quick.
Sure.
The Cleveland Browns are legitimate Super Bowl contenders. Make no mistake or give me a break.
I'm going to say give me a break, just because they're in the AFC. They're not beating the Chiefs, and they're probably not beating the Steelers, even though we saw the Steelers stumble this week. I just think that there's still that big brother, little brother mentality where the Steelers are going to come in with just the supreme confidence, and the Chiefs, that I don't think anybody's beating the Chiefs this year.
Yeah, I'm going to say give me a break as well. I just don't think there's any other contenders in the AFC other than the Steelers or the Chiefs. Like, there's after that, everyone else is a pretender to me. Yeah. All right, number 2, the Minnesota Vikings will make the playoffs. I've already answered this. You tell me what you think.
Yeah, I'm going to say make no mistake. I mean, Dalvin Cook, let Dalvin cook. Never mind Russ. Kirk Cousins is playing. He's had a great last 5 or 6 games. And, just by virtue of being in the same division as the Lions and the Bears, I mean, there's 2 more wins right there. So I think the Vikings are going to sneak in that last spot.
Yeah, I'm going to say make no mistake. The one thing that worries me is that they do have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next week, or this upcoming week. Mm-hmm. And that's a losable game. I think they also, I'm trying to remember who else they have. Just quickly pull up their schedule. Yeah, they have the Bears. That's a win. They have the Buccaneers and they have the Saints, 2 of the next 3 weeks. So those are 2 potential losses. Although they do have the Bears and the Lions as well. So I'm going to still say make no mistake, they're going to make the playoffs, but a little concerning with their schedule coming up. And my last one, the Rams will win the NFC West.
I mean, this is shocking to say, but I think that's make no mistake. I think that, the Seahawks stumbling against the Giants, and we've seen the Cardinals kind of falling off due to potentially, possibly an injury to Kyler Murray, and maybe some noviceness there too. The Rams, the Seahawks look better on offense usually, at least up until this week. But the Rams, offense and defense, I think that they're a more complete team, and I think that over the long haul, it's gonna play out that they're gonna end up being the best team in that division.
Yeah, I'm gonna say make no mistake as well, and I think it's all the things you said, but also they have the Patriots next week or this coming week, and then they have the Jets after that. So that should be 2 wins. Now all of a sudden you're a 10-4 team, and then you have a game against the Seahawks and the Cardinals where you only need to really win one of those to win 11 games. I think they're going to get in and win that division. All right.
So that's make no mistake or give me a break. Very quickly, your highlight and low light of the week.
Highlight of the week. I'm going to talk about the Saints. We didn't mention them at all, and they just keep cruising along. They just got another victory, and now they're 10-2, and they've won 9 consecutive games. I think had it not been for the Steelers or the Chiefs this season, we'd be talking a lot more about the Saints.
My highlight of the week is actually the Bills making a statement win against an improved 49ers team. This game had all the makings of an upset by the 49ers. A good running, good coach, well coached, good defensive team, and the Bills came out in prime time and just said, "No, we're for real."
Yeah, absolutely. That was a tough game to watch yesterday. As a 49ers fan, it was tough. My low light away, I'm going to make a little bit of an audible here. I had the Cardinals at first, but I feel like we beat up on them a lot earlier. So I'm just going to take the Chargers. It was just an awful performance. It was 45-0.
Embarrassing.
Like on offense, defense, special teams, it was just, it's one thing to lose. There's another thing to get completely embarrassed. That was just atrocious what we saw.
Yeah, and that's the product of a rookie coach and a rookie quarterback playing Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick finding yet another unbelievable return man in Hunter Oshepsky. It's just the lineage of Wes Welker to Julian Edelman is now, and now Olszewski is. It's amazing that they all even look like each other. Yeah, that was embarrassing. I think Anthony Lynn is dead man walking at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my low light of the week obviously is going to go to the Seahawks. I mean, just embarrassing. You lose to Colt McCoy. Come on. Yeah. I mean, you could not afford to lose that game, and they did. So
for a team that's supposed to be contending, especially, it's just no.
Exactly. So our moral lesson of the week, I picked something from Nelson Mandela, and this kind of goes to sort of watching the Jaguars take the Vikings to overtime, and it's the greatest glory in living lies not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall. And basically, they've sucked all year, but they still get up and try to win. So the Jags have heart. I'll give them that. They don't have talent, a lot of it, but they do have heart. So
yeah, they show up to play.
That's the moral lesson. I was very impressed by them. So all right, that'll do it. Hour 1 in the books already. We have to take a break. We're going to come back. We have to look ahead to week 14 already. We have to go over our week 13 picks. Put your money where your mouth is. Our sports book bet of the week. We have to review and make some new ones. But coming up next, we get to shift gears and move back to the NBA because the NBA is it's a couple weeks away, and that's really exciting. So stick around. We're going to talk some NBA and more right after this on the Benchwarmerz podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Benchwarmers Podcast. Follow along with us on the Benchwarmers Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to review us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts.